Hello Sagittarius, and welcome to your new moon lunar cycle insight video for the March new moon in Pisces cycle. This of course is a very exciting and transformative lunar cycle, as we have Mercury stationing retrograde the day before, we have Uranus moving into Taurus for the first time in 84 years. Just hours before the new moon rises. So it's a time of great change, great expansion, and also a somewhat confusing period as well, as we have the kind of impetus to break free from old stagnant situations, but also may find ourselves revisiting the wounds and pain of the past as well, with Mercury stationing on the final degree of the zodiac. So let's have a little look at how these energies are going to affect you personally, Sagittarius. So at the beginning of the month, we have the moon, the sun and Neptune all coming together in Pisces in your first house, just as Mercury stations. So there's a huge emphasis on this area of your chart. The sign of Pisces is of course the sign of the deep waters, the cosmic ocean. And the fourth house of the birth chart, traditionally associated with Cancer and the lunar energies of mothering, nourishment and nurturing. So we have a doubly emotional energy for you this month, Sagittarius. And this is really interesting because of course Mercury retrograde calls us to go within, to reflect, to review the past. And the fourth house is also very much concerned with nostalgia. It's very much concerned with ancestral lineage, genetic inheritance, the wounds of our ancestral line, the wounds of our childhood. You know, it's where we connect with our parents, with our grandparents, and right back onto the first ancestor. It's the womb space of the birth chart. So if we think of the waters of the womb that we were, you know, surrounded by as our mother was carrying us in her body, and we know how water holds memory, it holds patterning. So in the fourth house we have access to all of this deep wisdom, and also of course the trauma and the unhealthy patterns that we may have picked up as well. We know that many of us, as we shift into the age of Aquarius, many of us who are drawn to spiritual teachings, to astrology, you know, we're the paradigm shifters. We are the ones that are breaking the generational cycles. And this Mercury retrograde, hello Lilith, makes us extra aware of that. So we might find ourselves processing a lot of emotional stuff, a lot of emotional debris that is not only ours but has come down through our family lineage as well. So as I said, going back into our childhood, looking at the programs and patterns that we have, particularly around nourishing ourselves and feeling safe and secure, which are key themes of the fourth house energy. We often nourish and nurture ourselves in the ways that we were nourished and nurtured as children, or the way that we observed adults nourishing and nurturing themselves. So it's really important to think about what self-care, what self-love really means to us, you know, because it's not always salt baths and pieces of chocolate cake, you know. In fact, that can be quite unhealthy in some ways if we think that, you know, self-love is treating ourselves to things that are perhaps toxic to our body. So we might want to reflect upon that as well, and remind ourselves that sometimes self-love can be letting go. It can be forgiving ourselves and other people, and sometimes it can be about dealing with the practical issues of life as well. You know, to love ourselves is to become organized and structured and disciplined with our energy and resources in some cases. So have a little think about what truly nourishes your soul during this period. We can also be thinking about changes in our physical location, our physical residence during this time. Of course, it's not a good time to sign contracts, not a good time to be initiating new beginnings in this way. It's best to wait until after Mercury leaves Pisces, leaves his retrograde shadow in April. Sometimes we can set things into motion straight after Mercury stations direct, but in this case he's still going to be moving through the foggy, confusing, illusory sign that is Pisces until April the 17th. So if you can hold off, it's best to do that and give yourself space to become clear before you start making any life-changing decisions. So this is a time when you will feel more sensitive, a time when you will want to have time and space to do this internal healing work. Perhaps you're going to be drawn to meditation, be drawn to journaling, perhaps, you know, like I've been saying to the other signs, this is really an energy of an emotional expression, so you may want to talk through what is rising up for you with other souls as well. But above all, you know, examine what it means to feel safe and secure to you, because we also have, as I say, Uranus moving into Taurus just hours before the new moon. So he is leaving the 5th house of your birth chart, which has been quite a nice energy for you. He's been in your fellow fire sign. He's quite happy in Aries in the 5th house, because all of those energies like to express themselves uniquely, individually. It's all about authentic self-expression, a revolution of creativity. So now he comes into Taurus, this solid earth sign, in the 6th house of your birth chart, which is to do with structure, orderliness, routine, detoxification, health and well-being. It's the Virgo mercurial space of the birth chart. So this is an interesting energy, because this house wants structure and order. It wants to know the details. It wants to be in control. And Uranus wants complete liberation. So we're going to have to find a balance. You know, we're going to have to structure our life in a way that makes us feel free. Perhaps we'll realize that structure actually leads to freedom in many ways. The more we resist having order in our life, oftentimes the more chaotic we become and the more energy and time and money we leak. So it might be time to reframe that concept a little bit for you, Sagittarius, as such a freedom-loving, expansive sign. So we are looking at a revolution in this space of your birth chart, a total reworking. And this house is also related to our day-to-day work as well, you know, our routines, things that we do on a daily basis, our service and care work. So it's time to, you know, perhaps we'll have unexpected changes or upheaval in these areas. Perhaps we'll realize our work or the ways that we are serving are not in alignment with our true soul self, and we will have to make a change. This can be a time when we're changing jobs quite quickly, we're changing our habits quite quickly, and also we're looking at the physical body, our physical health and well-being. So we may find that we have awakening, you know, through the body. We may find, you know, particularly as Uranus enters Taurus, that we're feeling quite electrified. Our nervous system is a little bit wired. You know, the Shakti Kundalini energies are rising, and we have to learn how to embody this frequency. We have to learn how to embody the changes that we wish to make in these key areas of our lives. Also, we can be looking at, perhaps we'll be changing our life by learning a new healing modality, by learning a new healing skill. Or maybe there will be changes in our body that call us to make changes in our lives. It's time to really listen to our body, to its needs, to what it wants, because it's expanding to hold this high frequency energy. So again, we go back to these themes of nourishing, of nurturing ourselves in ways that are supportive of our own well-being. During this retrograde, we're really all collectively looking at addictive and self-sabotaging patterns. And this can be particularly reflected in these areas of your life, Sagittarius. So have a look at how you are creating disharmony and imbalance with, you know, ingesting toxic substances, or maybe being a little bit over rebellious. As an Aries, I totally understand that sentiment. So maybe it's time to really look at life, look at the mundane aspects of life, or the seemingly mundane aspects of life, as more sacred. You know, everything can become a ritual when we're working with the 6th house energy, and also when we're working with Pisces energy. So how can you bring a sense of excitement, a sense of higher awareness to those things which previously may have seemed boring or insignificant to you? How can you change your thinking to make yourself feel free, even when you have to adhere to some kind of routine or discipline? So I'm going to pick a card to culminate this reading for you, Sagittarius. And these cards are the Amy Sophia Maharishinki Goddess Oracle deck, which are one of my favorites. I often use them in these readings. Interesting. So we have Demeter, feelings and emotions. And as some of you may be aware, Demeter was an ancient mother goddess, a corn goddess. I see the sheaves of corn on the card here, and also the pomegranate, because she was the mother of Persephone, who in the ancient Greek myths was taken into the underworld by Hades, and it's said that Demeter grieved so deeply that the whole world became permanent winter. And as the story unfolds, we see that she, supported by the other goddess of the underworld, Hecate, makes an agreement with Hades that Persephone will spend half of her time in the underworld with him and half of her time above the ground with Demeter. And when Persephone is with her mother, the earth blossoms. We have spring and summer. And when she returns, everything dies and becomes barren, and we go into autumn and winter. Obviously, that's one version of the myth. Truly, Hades is Pluto, the dark goddess, and it's more a story of initiation. But for these purposes, that's the story that we are most often told. And Demeter is representative of the Great Mother, and of course the 4th house is to do with those issues, those feelings and emotions related to childhood and the mothering energies. So this is a time when we might be working on our relationship with our mother, or our relationship to being a mother. This really can denote issues with the women in the family, with children. We're looking at our relationships there, and what needs to be healed, what needs to be forgiven, what needs to be let go of. You know, perhaps there's a need to have stronger boundaries with family. You know, in some aspects, Demeter can be seen as quite controlling, you know, not wanting to release her daughter. So there are many different underlying themes that relate to the 4th house in this story. So it would be really worth you diving into the mythology and getting to know this archetype during this Mercury retrograde, Sagittarius. But the deep message here is allowing yourself to feel your feelings and emotions. It's about the eternal cycle of life. You know, it's not always spring, it's not always positive, it's not always happy and optimistic, which of course is one of your core energies. But sometimes we have to go into the darkness. We have to feel the feelings that we don't want to feel. So it's allowing all feelings to rise up and be embraced. Allowing ourselves to accept the light and the shadow in ourselves and in other people. So like the snake, we shed the old skin. So thank you so much for listening to me, Sagittarius. If you wish to connect with me further, you can check the notes below this video.
Incoming call.